Thank you.
I'm going to run to the restroom, so then I'll have my mind on your questions and not something else.
Okay. Oh,
We'll be
I
live
did
here.
too.
Just a second. Now we are live.
Okay.
We are now going. Take a moment.
So I don't know how you guys want us to interact today. I think you're primarily trying to deal with Esther. We do have some comments on the contract and some of those kind of things, without getting into too much specifics.
You need to bring some water over here.
I know, we should. So this contract, the way it is been looked at by, of course, our attorney that developed it, and then Corey, and then the BOR. So that's where we're at.
We're live, Mike. You can get started whenever
Okay.
you want.
I'll recall this meeting to order for the CEI contract for the management of the Silos Recreation Area. First off, hopefully it's welcome aboard, Esther, for your
Thank you.
hopeful progress out there, and appreciate it. So I guess we can just start with where you have concerns, or we can go through it line by line, or
Okay, well, I'll get my glasses out here. It was just mainly the financial setup and remuneration to the Broadwater County. Because looking at the fees being charged and then not having, I know what a campground takes for maintenance and service and cleaning. It wasn't clear if Broadwater County has some maintenance duties out there that they do. Are they sharing some of those maintenance costs? Then it would make more sense to do some of the levels that you're asking, but they'd have to be quite substantial. You don't get 20% freeboard on every dollar you collect out of a user fee in a camp area like that. Typical year, probably 11% freeboard, and that would be with some number between, I'd say, 4 and 9% being paid as a lease fee, some kind of lease fee. Then what's left out of that is maybe about 6 or 7% above that. So when you say you've got a 6% that you're paying for a lease fee, and then you've got maybe 6% that you'll be able to keep as profit for yourself, when you're having to pay 20% to some other entity, you don't report all the money. That's what happens with concessionaires when they get into a situation like that. They don't report the money, and we won't do that. We would rather not do the concession than be in that position. So 20% is a deal breaker. You can't, it's just not economically feasible. It just isn't with the numbers. Now, I do have a presentation from this trade association meeting that group that I'm with, and these are concessionaires that operate out of Washington and Oregon and California and Arizona and Tennessee and Florida, North Carolina, all those places. So we have on our board about 300 years experience in running concessions. And one of our board members put together for our government entities TED Talk that breaks out what our costs are. A lot of the costs you guys wouldn't see as a government entity because you don't pay things like insurance. This year alone, I'm going to be paying about $32,000 in insurance, just in insurance. And it will go up when I add the silos because they want to cover all my liability based on the income that comes in and then the amount of ground that's out there and what kind of buildings and amenities are on that ground. And the problem is that insurance will not cover earthquake. It won't cover, floods. It won't cover a lot of stuff. So I'm paying some big bucks out for not a lot of protection on there. And so it's costs like that doesn't get recognized with a lot of the federal agencies that we deal with. So that's why we put that thing together. And we can get it online for you guys if you want to watch it and just show what's in there. I'm having to do, just because of the climate today, employment insurance. So if somebody wants to sue me for not paying workers' comp on them, or they didn't think they got treated fair under workers' comp, they'll sue me, and I have to have insurance for that. Or if they think that they were working more hours than the wages could be paid, that's something that we have to watch out for too. So that's another thing that I saw with silos is they had one camp host, one man, trying to take care of 85 sites. That's absurd. That's absurd. The number of people you need is about one person can take care of about 35 sites and not get burned out. So this guy must be a working fool and must like doing it because that's what he did all last year. And I've got him hired back if we actually get the contract, but we're going to get him some help. And I know that for that size campground, you have almost enough for 3 people to be fully employed. I mean, their time fully taken. You're at about 80 sites. I think you've got 77 actually marked out sites. And then there's another 5 to 10 sites that are kind of dispersed, or a lot of the area in there is kind of dispersed. It's just a little bit unmanaged. And then the marina, then you have the boat launch and the boat docks. And those are going to take a ton of time in the office. They're already taking a lot of time because we're calling and talking to the people. So you have at least 3 workers on the ground that we need. We could probably do it with 2 camp hosts this year. And I've got 1, and so I'll be looking for another. And then a manager, and the manager we've hired for Goose Bay, we'll have him do the silos too. And what he does is keep the workers working and inspect what they're doing. Whatever you inspect is actually what gets done. So that's how we do that. So what we need to do, the price that should be set out there for the amenities that you have right now is probably about $15 a night, something like that. And so we're not there yet. You just raised your prices, last year?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be real popular to raise them up again. And I'd say what I need to do is go in there as a new concessionaire, get some improvements done on the ground, how things are equitably parceled out to the people that are coming, make sure they get a good experience when they're coming there, and that everything they use is in as good a condition as I can make it. To do that, those first couple of years, I need to have that extra capital, and I don't have it because I can't charge the prices that are going to be there. So if you're willing to work with me, I can do, because there's going to be a lot needed. I'm seeing that some of the tables are not in good condition, and the sites themselves are not well marked. They're not well, they're just not clear as to what you can park on and what you can't park on. So we just got back from Nebraska and we bought a couple of really nice lawnmowers that can mow dirt. So you should see those air cleaners on there. They're about this big around, a big tube. And it has an outer cleaner and an inner cleaner that we can do on there. And we bought them specifically so we could go mow your dirt. I'm sorry. And if we don't get this silos, we'll use them at Goose Bay. Because we have a mower there, a Toro, that it can't take it. Can't take the conditions. The stuff we have to do to maintain that is just ridiculous. So we would put more money into the maintenance for the first couple of years and less going back as a return to you guys, if you're willing to do that, to help bring that campground up and make it nice and make it usable. I would really like to take an area and irrigate it if we get some irrigation rights out of the reservoir and make it a nice green area for people to be on and just recreate in and get that done fairly quickly. So it's not such a dry, it's just a dry place out there, so. But I don't know what your needs are, and that's where you need to intersect with me on what do you need as a return and what have you pledged. I didn't see that you've got anything going back to the Bureau of Reclamation, and so I don't know if that's in the mix or not. So that's kind of what I see as our issues of getting this stuff up and running and getting it done well for the campground. I did look at my maintenance budgets and what we're typically spending. Now, I've been in my Forest Service campgrounds for 25 years. My maintenance budget there is just materials, so I'm not counting labor costs. It was about 3.9% up to 5.6% of all that I can bring in going back into the campgrounds in just materials. And that's outside of the offset money that I pay as a lease payment. And that is a capital improvement project that we put into the campgrounds. And that's for the Forest Service, I'm paying 6.5% most of the time up there. At the Goose Bay Marina, which is a brand new facility, I was putting in about 10%. It's over 9%, 9.8, 9.9, 10% over the last 3 years. Part of it is because the design of the facility was a little bit lacking. They did some very nice things over there, but they left out some things that we would call critical. So, just the ability to house the equipment you need to do a good job taking care of everything was a little bit skimped on. So we've been trying to get that up and running. So anywhere for marina, 10%. My campgrounds I've been in for 25 years, about 5%, 4% right in there. And we could certainly pledge to do that out at the silos, no problem. Just make sure that's done. And that would be the kind of maintenance, if you think of maintenance as two kinds, you have a maintenance that is just keeping the facilities conditioned. I'd call it conditioning type of maintenance, where you're painting tables and you're mowing grass and you are replacing barriers, you're putting in new posts, you're upgrading the bulletin boards, just to keep the thing usable. Then you have capital improvement type maintenance, where you might have to take a road and grade it and put an elevation on it, slope it the right way, or put in maybe some water drainage or things like that. Those are capital improvement projects. And between the two, I'm thinking 9% between those two kinds of projects would be doable. I think we could do that. So I don't know if you're hearing numbers that you can live with or what it is, but questions on what I'm seeing out there? It's like, I say one of the capital improvement projects I'd like to put some dollars in is making a second camp host site that has electricity at the minimum to that campsite. And then we try to spread the camp hosts out so they are in different areas of the campground, so they're not on top of each other, because they can annoy each other through the summer too. So it's nice for them to be able to go home and be away from the other person. And also then be accessible and a presence that's visible in different parts of the campground. So some good things like that.
So I guess one of the questions we had, Esther, is what is your plan for having a building or whatever it have in, say, around the boat launch area to take care of people there, to answer their questions, take fees, all those kind of, what is your plan? Are you just planning to have the camp host do that?
Yes, pretty much, but our camp host will be, if I can get my 3 people in there, then they have one who's on site, and they have hours that they would be there, which we would see what your, like weekends, you'd have someone there on weekends, they'd just be there to answer questions. And we can have a little, like a trailer for them to sit in, and that would be the easiest to do right now, is just a trailer where they could lock up this stuff and have a place to sit out and a little cabana to sit under, or even just a tent type an area. You could do like a awning for them to sit under, and that would be manned during certain hours where we know we have peak activity. 4th of July, it is 24/7 just about.
Well, yeah.
That one.
I mean, and one of the things that was discussed, and I don't think you were familiar with our procedure, is there is a kiosk out there that was just put in towards the end of the last season
Okay,
for people to do their $5 boat launches.
okay,
But they can also purchase the $50 annual.
right,
But they can only make the payment there. In order for them to receive the actual tag, they have to go to somebody to get that.
right. And that's kind of like we have it at our store.
Okay?
We is anybody familiar with square readers?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking that we might put silos on a square reader for this year, where people can come out and with a telephone, you can swipe their credit card and get it. And that's a pretty comparable credit card fee for us, about 2.7% with a square reader. And it's just real handy. We have a cell phone. The cell phone work. We have a square reader on it. We teach our customers how to use that square reader. So they can use credit cards there, which would be kind of nice.
Right.
And what happens is that keeps the money from having to go through the hands of employees. So that's kind of nice to do that too. With that, if we can get the reservation system up and running, they can do a launch fee or a pass online and have a receipt that comes.
Yeah.
And we could make the receipt be anything, and I'd say the bottom half would be one that has to be in the vehicle. Like we do at Goose Bay, they've got a hang tag that will go on their rearview mirror that shows that they've paid that fee. Or if it's a season pass, it shows their season pass, and we record all of those.
Right.
So,
And that was the concept for the end of this season, a hang tag and a pass that goes on the dashboard
yeah.
for days.
And, yeah, so if they download that and it's like a confirmation letter that they've got their payment done, and it comes in an email. So I think the 2 systems that we're looking at for reservations, Camp Life can do that no problem. Recreation.gov can probably do that with no problem. We're kind of leaning towards recreation.gov right now, but we have to hammer out some details on how they want to operate if we put the silos on there. I did have a question for you. As a Bureau of Reclamation facility, it could be underneath the America the Beautiful passes for seniors and access, which is it's a 50% discount for seniors and for people that have disabilities. Now, the people with disabilities, they have to apply for that through a medical doctor and get it. So that's controlled that way. It's not really readily available. But with the senior pass, senior can pay for either an annual pass, and I think that's $20 right now, or they can, is that right? And then $80 for a lifetime pass on that. And they require us to give 50%. Well, I just told you how much we actually clear on each salary, and 50% is ridiculous. With our trade association, we had, and the federal government was getting pushback on this, and they hired Price Waterhouse, that was the name of a company, to come and do a study on that. And according to the legislation that was passed, concessionaires don't have to honor that pass. It was only for government entities that were charging fees for camping and entrance fees. So you get entrance fees into Yellowstone Park, you get entrance fees into Glacier, you get entrance fees into some of the national heritage areas and others. But campgrounds you've never had an entrance fee for. So if the federal government was running it, their dollars got collected, and under that particular law, their dollars were all being sent back to the federal coffers in Washington, D.C., and the entity didn't get to keep a dime of it. They had to pay all the money for people to go out and collect it, take care of the campgrounds, and then send all the money they collected back to Washington, D.C. Well, you know, an entity is not going to do the work and take on that for nothing. And that's what was happening. So typical disconnect with some of our government. How they do business, I'm saying that didn't make a lot of sense. And so what was happening, they weren't collecting any fees at the campgrounds and giving a minimal cleaning and minimal maintenance. So that's when they started going to the concessionaire program. And under the concessionaire program, according to that law, they don't have to honor those passes. Now, the Forest Service made it their point to make us honor those passes. I have 30% of the people who use those campgrounds are a pass discount. 30%. That's unheard of for any kind of discount program that you do in any business. If they get 10% of the people taking advantage of a discount program, that's a huge amount. And those discount programs, you might see 5%, you might see 20%, you might see 15%. You don't see 50% off. Not unless it's an outdated item that they're going to have to waste next week. And then they might take 50% off. But not, it's just not feasible to keep that bottom line in there. So what has happened is the concessionaires in the Forest Service have had to raise their prices on families to subsidize the retired people. And we see it all the time. These guys are getting their pennies and quarters out and trying to pay those fees, and they camp less because it is more expensive for them. So, and where the retirement people, well, they come in with their $500,000 buses and then want to have their camping for $10. You know, it's really sad, and it's very unfair. So Price Waterhouse basically said the federal government either needs to pay the concessionaire for all the discounts they've given, and I've personally given over $1 million. It's been in discounts in my 30 years I've been out there. And they said, and I would like to have that from the federal government if they choose to pay me. But they said the federal government either needs to not let them not make us charge the discount, or pay us for all the discounts we give out. Because how that service is actually set up, just think of this for a while. You've got the grocery store on one side of the street and a hardware store on the other side of the street. The hardware store is selling passes for the groceries on the other side of the street. The hardware store collects the money for this discount card that they can take across the street and get their groceries for 50% off. And they don't pay them a dime out of the money they keep. That's how that system is set up, and that is so screwy. That is just not fair, not right, and we don't get any of the money that they collect for your $20 annual senior pass, your $80 for a lifetime senior pass. We don't get any money, and I haven't for 35 years. So I would not honor those passes. What I would do is give different discounts that everybody's eligible for. Have discount days or discount weekends or discount events or something that I would rather have everybody be eligible for. There are some, right now the Bureau of Reclamation has veterans free use of Bureau of Reclamation facilities, and it's federal facilities for veterans. We have a lot of veterans in Montana. They are out the yin-yang. But what they put in the fine print is if it's run by the federal government, that's who gives that free time. We give a 50% discount to active duty military and their families. So that's what we do. Because the active military person, he doesn't get paid squat. I'm sorry, he doesn't. And the veterans, they're all working jobs, and they can be paying like the rest of us do because they're getting income from other sources. So that's kind of how we keep it. And we do support some veterans programs that we'd be willing to do, like a free pavilion for them if they wanted to do it out on our place. So we do other things like that. So that I need to know from you, am I going to be required to honor that Golden Age and Golden Access Pass? Because that makes a difference too, and then what I can return to into the maintenance and into the commission.
I have a quick question before maybe we go down the numbers.
Sure.
I had never thought of it until you said it. out there at the silos, where would you put all the equipment, the tractors and?
We have done a variety of things. We've built sheds, we've put trailers, covered trailers in there that are locked up, and I think we'll probably be doing a covered trailer. I'm in the process of rebidding some of my Forest Service
Right.
campgrounds, and if I don't get some of those permits back, I'll have a lot of equipment that we can use. For this year, I'm thinking of collecting the garbage with dumpsters and having a pickup done, which is a little more expensive than doing it ourselves. But that saves me the expense of having to buy a trailer until I know I don't have one available from one of these other areas. So,
Thank you, I just hadn't thought of that until you said that
yeah,
a few minutes
and that's
ago.
what we usually try to do. Our camp hosts, a lot of times they'll have an extra tent, and they'll just keep stuff out of sight in a tent, things like that people normally don't steal, like your rakes and shovels and mops and mop buckets and some of those things.
Well, I guess I was looking at your estimated startup costs, and you had, what, $8,000 for a storage building or trailer? Is that
Yeah, and
What
that'd
you
be
would-
one new one that we'd have to buy,
something that you were thinking
Yeah.
about? Okay.
and that's what we try to work with this year. One of the thoughts we've had is that we would go to Canvas, Montana Canvas, and buy one of their outfitter tents, put it on a platform and do it. Then when we know whether we've got any other trailers coming back from anything else, we can convert that into a glamping facility and sell it as a glamping facility if we want to do that. So we've got some options where it can have some dual use out there. Or
The wind does blow out there.
Yeah,
yes, it does.
we were all thinking that, weren't we?
That's right.
Okay.
They've had things like yurts too, and yurts are pretty sturdily built, so they could do that.
Okay.
But my husband's a carpenter; he loves building things, so he likes doing that kind of stuff. And it's easy to buy. Usually it's easy to buy a covered trailer. I will tell you, I went back to upgrade one of my trailers in Nebraska when we got those mowers. They are 300 trailers behind in orders. You can't get anything from them until August if you order it now. So we'd have to look far and wide, I'm afraid, for a covered trailer. It may be more difficult than we think. You can't get a lot of outdoor recreation equipment. So that's something we'll be keeping our eyes open for and start right away so we can get a heads up on that. We need it. I did have some questions for you. Did you have some more? Anybody else wanted to ask me about just how we think we're going to have to run that to be able to actually not get skinned on the numbers?
No, I think probably a little bit later on, we'll probably talk about the boat launch fees and
Okay.
that. And that was probably something that may not have got figured into your revenue.
Right.
Because we didn't know, we just put this into place the last month of the season that it finally got operating.
Okay.
And everything we're working off from is what we think it's going to generate.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
the thing with the whole idea behind that, as you know, the trust board helped to us participate, and they provided most all the fundings to
Okay.
redo that boat launch area as far as for regrade it and put the mag chloride down and purchase the kiosk. And the only thing that they're asking of us is that we hold back enough out of those fees to have ongoing maintenance of the boat
Yeah.
launch facilities within the whole area. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at with that, and we'll discuss it some more. But
Yeah. I'm looking at that 75% of those fees going back and going into that trust. I would need a pretty big commitment of what they were wanting,
Sure.
what they would maintain.
and I think we could probably do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some ideas on that.
Yeah, on that one. And I look at it as a partnership. That is probably the pickiest and most hated aspect of my camp host job is collecting those launch fees. And then you're telling me, my ears are perking up here, this has just got implemented late last year. So there's pushback. We'll have pushback on
Yeah, a
this.
little bit, you know,
That
I think
will have
I
to-
think we've kind of gone through that, but the fact is, they won't have to collect them, they can go to the kiosk
Yeah,
and be collected
down
that
on
way.
The annual fees are the only ones that,
Right.
you know.
And they can actually pay them there at the kiosk, they just need
Yeah.
the tag after they
yeah,
can show Esther's folks the receipt and they can get the tag.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll eliminate a lot of that.
yeah, that'd be helpful on doing that. So, yeah, the maintenance on those marinas, I'm not sure what they have and what they've done. Ours has been pretty minimal with the boat launch over at Goose Bay, where we just kind of keep the dirt and mud and rocks off the ramp. As the water goes down, we get right in there and get out there as far as we can without drowning our tractor and bring that stuff out and get it off to the side and take it out of there.
I think our marina, for the most part, isn't costing a lot either. I mean, there's, you know, every year we have our inspection, right? And they find a few things that need to be taken care of, and I
Yeah,
think there's still a few outstanding issues there, but
Yeah.
nothing. And I don't know if you're aware, but we had somebody run into one of ours last year with a boat,
okay.
and but insurance paid for that.
Mhm.
But I still think that
Okay.
there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done there. But anyway,
Yeah, and we're certainly willing to work with that and be flexible on it.
okay.
So, and then I think after a year running it, we can tell you what our hours are and what the people were. But if you think about it like a storefront that you have to man and you've got to have somebody there, and your minimum wage, you know, with a federal program under Obama, it was $10 an hour that we had to maintain. It's sounding like it's going to go up to $15 an hour. And if you have 8-hour days, at least 8-hour days, and more like 12, especially on weekends, that has to be covered, because and I have to pay wages that cover that. So,
And the way the boat launch as now, and you may, you know, if we work this out and want to change it, they can put their credit card in for the day pass, get the slip, put it on their dashboard, that's how it's supposed to work,
sure.
and be done.
So that's an
there's no-
electronic kiosk at
Yes.
the moment? Okay.
So there's no,
Yeah.
literally for that, there's no human interaction.
Yeah, that's
Now,
that's
if they
nice.
want to buy the season pass,
Mhm.
they have to take this and go to your person
Okay,
and get the hang tag or
Okay.
whatever. Now
Yeah.
that's, you know, if you have a
Sure.
different way to do it, that's how it is right now.
yeah, but we
So
don't
very
have
low.
any number of what that percentage is for a day pass or for a season pass. So
We don't
that's-
know yet.
Not
We have a
for-
feeling that a majority of our local residents
yeah.
will purchase the annual
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah,
It makes,
sure.
it makes sense for them, because they're in and out maybe a couple times a day,
yeah,
you know. One thing on the boat marina, the slips themselves, is we still do have outstanding debt
okay,
that we have to pay
yeah,
for their original purchase.
okay.
So that's a consideration for us.
Yeah, yeah, so that's where part of that launch fee is gonna have to be going back for that, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good to know, too. The other thing I was having questions about is, I didn't do a good count on your pavilions, and I saw in one location, it sounded like you guys weren't gonna have me run the pavilions, and now it sounds like I am, and that's what Sharon had done last year. So I'm kind of assuming, and then I've got the pricing on this, where they had, yeah, those numbers on the pavilions are pretty healthy. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem keeping those that way for a number of years,
Yep.
the way they've got them. And people like them, oh my word, we
Yes,
have
they
gotten
do.
calls on those things.
Yep.
Big time. We actually did a changeover from some group picnic areas in the Bighorn National Forest. We had 4 of them. And the first 5 years we ran the place, they got maybe 5 uses per year on each of those. We were telling them, and then we were having all kinds of management problems with groups in the campgrounds, overnight camping. And so we talked the Forest Service into letting them use overnight group use of those picnic areas. And we set up our times from, they can check in at 11 a.m., they have to check out at 10 a.m. the next day, or for however many days they are, which gives us an hour to get in there and clean it after they've come out. They can use it then for a lunchtime picnic on that day if they want to just do a picnic, or they can actually go overnight and use it. A lot of weddings will come in the day before, set everything up, have their wedding, do that, and then stay until the next day to be able to clean up. That thing is packed. Those things are packed now. We barely have, I'd say, double digits of days that aren't used through that whole summer. So it's very popular, and that's a real good thing to keep in mind with the redo of the area, is that those group areas are just very popular and getting more so, where people come in with 3 or 4 RVs and about 20 tents and 15 cars, and yeah. And then they are noisy. There's a lot of traffic in and out, and they're just enjoying each other's company, so it's nice to keep them away from campgrounds, campsites. So we find that's real helpful on that. But the prices you've got, those are really, yeah, right in there and not bad. And they've been going for a while, these prices? Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice to know.
Okay.
Yeah, all the rules that I looked at, we've been enforcing those things forever.
Yep.
We've got handouts and things we do with the dog stuff. Yeah, we try to teach our poor employees that they need to have a sense of humor with keeping dogs on leash, because people know it, they just don't want to do it. So they can have a little tally book, and when someone starts arguing with them, they can whip out the tally book and said, well, I've only had to tell 552 people over the last two months to do the same thing, and no, you're not going to get any special treatment off this one. And we have a handout for that as well. We like to make a little dog area for them to run their dogs free, so they can have a little exercise off a leash. Haven't got it done at Goose Bay yet. We're working on that. So. And the insurance stuff looks okay. It's not anything weird in there. Sometimes we get a Forest Service prospectus out that wants us to insure roadways and trees. And we can't, there's no insurance written for any of that stuff, yeah. I mean, they get chewed up when a forest fire goes through, but we won't have anybody insure any of that. And I did have a question, when we get the insurance to cover silos, is it Broadwater County that's additional insured, or is it Bureau of Reclamation?
We need to
I
find
think
out.
it's Broadwater County, isn't it?
I think it would be, I assume it would be Broadwater County.
Yeah,
Might
it's,
have to check.
Yeah.
because, and the ownership of the facilities is still the Bureau of Reclamation, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So it may be that you have two, one for fire and casualty would be the Bureau of Reclamation. The other for liability, although whoever owns it, they're probably gonna have to be named as liability, for liability purposes too. I'm just almost certain that that'll have to happen. So they'll have to have two additional named, and you guys want to be named as additional liability for accidents and lawsuits that happen due to injury out there. Because they'll come after anybody they think they can get $1 out of.
Yeah.
So. And with your name on the other end of that contract, that's almost guaranteed. Now, we have had insurance from the start, and we have had 0 lawsuits with that. So we just try to run our campgrounds proactively, and our motto is solve the problem. So when people get stuff that they don't like and they're hot and angry about, we try to solve it for them so they don't go home disappointed. We did have one guy who backed his RV into a gate and then didn't listen to anybody and pulled it forward and pulled the back end off of his trailer. So that was quite a substantial one, and he did have a lawyer calling us saying we had to pay for that, but we just turned it over to the insurance company, and they had to write a letter saying, look, he was in control of his vehicle, and he was being told not to do what he did, and he did it anyway, so he bears the responsibility for that. So that we didn't get any adverse determination on that. So, and then for payouts with vandalism, I think we have it's like $1,000 deductible with Forest Service, and most of our vandalism has been under $1,000 to replace. So we just mainly just do it part of maintenance. If you have to go through the whole payout process, it takes so long, the thing is vandalized and left vandalized until they can do all their investigations and run it through the whole thing, that we just, a lot of times, just clean it up and report it. We have to report it, but we don't file any kind of claims on those things. But we do find, if you keep the campground in good condition and your buildings and signs and other things look in good repair, you have very little vandalism. And then we kind of run out the rowdies too. We find them before they get too drunk and let them know they're being monitored. And that helps. And after a while, they figure out that they can have more peace and quiet if they go somewhere else. So we'll go down and hand them garbage bags and tell them all the garbage has to be in the bag and that they'll be charged if it's left around, and then just keep after them. And then the grapevine kind of helps with that too, once we've made one person come back and clean up their mess. The other question I have is, this is a term for 2 years, correct? And it will be two years. And then it's unknown about the next 3. Does that depend on whether you get an extension with the Bureau of Reclamation or renew that agreement with them? Is there any uncertainty, and will they require that to be rebid again in 2 years' time? So.
Let's see. I think there's something that addresses that.
It was in, I didn't print out the big one from the Bureau of Reclamation, but I think it was in that exhibit. But we're basically looking at a 5-year with no option to renew. It has to be rebid in at least 5 years. And that's what my understanding was by the time I finished reading everything. But I didn't understand is how you had those 3 years of possible 1-year extensions. Because it looked like the Bureau of Reclamation had an end point in 2 years' time.
So I'm not understanding where you think that there's a 5-year contract.
Yeah, that's what it was looking like to me. But it's just 2 years?
Just 2
2
years.
years.
It's just 2 years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, 2 years, because we can't make a contract pass with the
You're ending.
agreement that we have with the Bureau of Reclamation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was reading that,
Mhm.
and it came through in the Bureau of Reclamation. I thought that was in your,
Yeah, it's on page 2 of our contract. Number 2.
This is for 2 years.
okay.
So is that language that was in the RFP
Mhm.
proposal package? that
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now that you've had this thing reviewed?
Yeah. So it says agreement may be extended by mutual written agreement of the county and manager in the event the BOR agreement is extended or a new BOR contract is
Okay.
entered into by the county. So if that is what happens, then it can be extended
mhm.
without having to, rebid,
Go through it.
go
But
through
it, yeah,
the RFP process again.
okay. Yeah, that would be nice. Just with a concession business like that, you put more into it if you think you're gonna be able to get to run it longer.
Well,
If we only got 2
Yeah.
years, we'll be doing the cleaning, we'll
Yeah.
do the conditioning type of maintenance, but probably not a lot other than that.
and we know that.
Yeah,
We
Okay.
know that you're not gonna be making a huge investment without a long-term
Right.
contract.
Right,
But we have, that's the cards we have to work with for right
Mhm.
now,
okay.
okay?
Yeah.
But it puts you in a pretty good position for, at the end of 2
Yeah,
years.
because then you'll know us better, yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you like us or not, that might
Vice versa.
Yeah, we'll work on that. I did have another question. I noticed everything in here was really heavy on some grant writing capabilities. And I don't know what your targeted, I guess that's a good word for it, the target would be for starting to get grants to do the upgrades in the campgrounds.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know if you have persons that are working on that, or if you have a commission that's working on that, or if your commission will start working on that.
I think when this is being developed, our master plan still had not been completed yet.
Okay,
And now that that's completed, I think we probably have a better idea
yeah,
what the vision's gonna be out there, and, as we start working with the BOR for the negotiation of this new contract, that'll give us an idea as well.
well, one of the things I'm noticing, I mean, you got the plan, you got the conceptualization, there's money coming out of the federal government. Now, under the Biden administration, whether that will continue or not, I don't know. It's been really heavily pushed towards national parks. 80% of it's going to go to national parks for addressing the backlog of infrastructure maintenance that needs to be done there. But 20% is coming to Forest Service and BLM and BOR and other places. And if you're early in getting your information before the people, because others may be not as far along as you are, so that's a plus for getting some consideration and maybe some early money. And that might be a good thing for all of us to sit down and say, what is the most needed? And you've got the phase 1, phase 2, and all of that in there. But also consider, as your Broadwater County Commission, your infrastructure needs for the town of Townsend, because they're putting out now a toolkit that has a listing of what grants are going to be available to help communities get ready to make income off recreation. You guys are poised really, really nicely right now, because you can make income almost 9 months out of the year, and maybe even 10 if you get snow in the mountains and include snowmobiling and the ice fishing and other things. But the weather has to cooperate for that 10 and 11 and 12th month. And that could be a huge impact that if you're not ready for, with things like wastewater management, garbage facilities, because you can outgrow your collection sites pretty quickly when you get more people coming in and more restaurants and hotels and those kind of services. So it's good to think about that and maybe target 1 or 2 of those to be upgraded and ready for when the impact comes. If we get the silos into that as far along as the plans are on there, that'll bring a lot of extra income into the little town of Townsend. So it's something to think about too, and get somebody working on. It might be a good project for a consortium of businesses, the BOR, Broadwater County, and private concessionaires along the lake, to come together, pool their resources, and hire the grant writer. That's just really a good strategy. It can't hurt. You might lose a few $1,000s if you don't get anything, but it would still poise you to put your fingers in the pie while that money's running by, if we can possibly get that done. So, and I think about these kind of things because it does make a difference. In the mountains where I'm working, we have some lodges, and some lodges are run really, really well, and other lodges are not run very well. And when people get up there, they just need the extra infrastructure. They want a place to eat out. They need some place to buy gas. They want to get some ice. They have to, have safety equipment. Is there a rapid response team in the area just those kind of things. Do they have cell phone service? Can they call their loved ones? Can they get on the internet and do some business so they can stay out for an extra day? Those are the kind of things that impact me pretty big in the campgrounds, because the people are asking us where are they and can we send them to that. So that's something we do keep in mind too. So we just think Townsend's a great area to really be able to grow, and it's poised to grow in that recreation industry area.
All right. So you want to talk about section 5, consideration, is that where you want to go? Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess what was proposed was that it was a 20% split. 75 to the manager, 20 to the county, and then there was going to be a 5% that was going to go into a maintenance and repair account. I guess what we were thinking was possibly a 90-10 split, 90% to the manager, 10% remitted to the county, and part of that 90% would be that 5% that you could use for your ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, I saw, we're talking about the campground
Number 5.
Number 5 on the contract.
considerations, okay.
Consideration in the
Yeah.
contract.
On page 6.
Yeah, on page 6. I got that one under that one. I was looking at the one under boat launch going, oh, that was just opposite of what you said. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would work. You're saying out of 90%, we'd still be obligated to put 5% into a RAFI account.
We're going to let you, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
We're just going to give you that 5% so
Okay.
that you can continue doing that maintenance that needs to be done out there.
Yeah. And
The idea, excuse
we
me,
prefer
I
that.
have a hip that jabs me every now and then. The idea is the county's not really, we're not really here to make money,
Mhm.
but we don't want to be burdened with what happens out there either. You
Right.
know, if
Yeah.
there's some maintenance thing that needs to be taken care of, we want you to take care of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we prefer to do.
We don't want you to come to the county and say, hey, you know, we need
We don't.
X number
You
of dollars
guys-
for this or for
yeah.
that. We don't want that.
Yeah.
And same with the, you know, the utility expenses, the electricity, whatever. We're not interested in that.
Right. Yeah. And we prefer that because we're quicker. You guys have a lot of rules and regulations you have to follow, and a lot of authorities that have to be permitted. And we don't. When we're there and we see the maintenance, we can just get her done. And so
Yeah.
we've been doing that with the Forest Service for the last at least 20 years, where we just let them know what we're doing, and
True.
that's about it.
Right.
So and just go ahead and do it.
We will still have 2 of our county employees. Our buildings maintenance manager will be coming out and seeing,
Right.
you know, how things are going. And
Yep.
then we'll also have somebody that's going to be taking care of the administrative side of stuff.
Right, and we like to hear that because a lot of things that get decided when we knock them out and we work them out get put into a file. That file needs to be permanent so it can be handed off to another new permit administrator, so they know the history. Otherwise, I've gotten burned this way because I just keep going ahead like we have agreed, do it as agreed, and these guys were not privy to that agreement because they didn't read the file and they didn't have it in writing. So yeah, that one is good to hear that that's going to be kept because it's needed. Just a
All right. So that would work for
kind of
you?
a history. Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Okay. Do you guys have anything else on that?
Nope.
No, I think that would be, I don't like the saying a win-win, but it would be a win-win.
Yeah, I think so, and that would get it out of your hair and not have to be overseeing it. That just gets to be a real burden.
Yep.
And then on the boat launch, that would stay the same?
No, I think we'll probably change that. Just kind of based on the fact that we're kind of guessing at our projections.
Okay,
And I don't even know if I want to throw numbers at you because I don't want you to think that, well, you said,
right,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
But we really do think that boat launch is going to create more revenue than what we really anticipated at the beginning.
Well, I've heard it's busy.
It is
It's really
extremely
busy.
busy.
Yeah,
And you see it, you've been involved with it at the Goose Bay.
yeah.
You know what happens on holiday weekends and
Yeah.
things like that. It's amazing what happens out there. Matter of fact, I was out there last week and there was 30 guys ice fishing,
Mhm.
30 different vehicles in the parking lot.
Yeah.
But I made a point of going around to see how many were local, and I think I only counted 2.
Hmm.
The rest were from other areas.
I think our summer stuff is about 75% out of town.
Yeah.
Locals take four-wheelers out.
Yeah, well, that might be true. Yeah, you don't see
Yeah,
no
they don't.
pickup in the parking lot.
They
You
set
can
them out there out the hole.
Load out of the garage, down the road into the water. And then we get out.
Yeah, I see that. So I guess here's what we were proposing is that 60% of it go to the county because we do have to maintain that maintenance fund for all the launch areas in the silo. 40% to the manager. For you guys to just, unlike that kiosk, there's really should not be a whole lot of interaction there for your host because of the kiosk,
Mhm.
other than
Right.
having to hand out the pass
Yeah.
and maybe, maybe help some people if they need some help, raise the docks up and down when the
Right.
lake level changes and some things like that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
sound-
that's pretty much for the maintenance, but we also go out and do tightening bolts, we go collect,
Yeah,
do all that stuff.
Right.
See if the bumpers are on, and if they've got reservations coming in, how have we communicated that, and do we have
Mhm.
flags up and flags down, and different things like that.
but, so that was one thing that we looked at in
Yeah.
your revenue projections,
Mhm.
is you probably didn't have any money in there for that.
No, because it
we
didn't,
know.
yeah.
So I think that's gonna change your revenue projections a little bit, might make it a
Yeah.
little bit better for you.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, and,
So the other thing with the boat launches
Mhm.
is there's an envelope.
oh,
pay
that's
station
right, there is.
next to the electronic kiosk.
Yeah,
Now, the electronic is cell phone operated
mhm,
type thing, so it's this automatic credit card thing. Right next to it is an envelope pay station, so that people that don't have credit cards, only have cash, can pay there.
okay,
And we have another envelope pay tube station ready to go that the design is, the thinking is, we'll put it on the south road, right past, before you get to where the host was this past year.
okay,
Right before you get to that road junction, put a couple loads of gravel in there and sink that envelope station in there so that no matter which way people go, they've
mhm,
got pay stations for the boat launches.
yeah.
okay.
So I guess your folks would have to collect those
Yeah,
envelopes, but,
you will need a bulletin board,
yeah.
wherever you have an Iron Ranger, you need a bulletin board.
Yeah.
And it should be like 2 4x8. You have that much information that you need on there, it should have 2 4x8. And if they have a little roof over the top of them, it helps keep your materials good through the season, but not required the first year, it's just to get that thing up and do it.
Anything that goes on there has to be really nailed down tight. The wind will have it in white silver before dark.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
true.
So true.
So those are probably really the 2 biggest areas that you have concern of, right?
Mhm.
I mean, everything else
Yeah,
looks
they are.
okay to you?
yeah, that looks fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that
So
looks
I
like
guess
it'll work.
one of my questions is what's gonna be your public outreach plan now? Say if we agree on this, so people know where to go to get the information, to purchase their boat slips and everything else.
Yeah, my daughter has a Facebook page ready to go,
Okay,
and we have a website ready to go. So we can put those up in a day or two.
Okay.
And then we have a waiting list of people to call, and we have their email addresses, and we'll do an email tree so that they'll start getting feedback from there. Our big thing is we're going to have to go out, if we're doing this reservation through recreation.gov, we have to decide if boat launches are going to go on there, or are they going to be pencil and paper for this first year. We have a lot of people, we're going to try not to rock the boat too much the first season, so people who've had sites for years and years and years will probably get them back.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
again,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
The boat slips especially.
Yes.
Yeah, boat slips especially.
yeah.
And then we'll see how people use them, see how much extra capacity you have. If you don't have capacity for everybody who wants a site out there, we have to manage that. And part of that is, are the people who are storing the boats there every day down there using those boats every day? If they're not, you kind of move them into an area where they have to decide when they're going to use them and make their reservations more pointed, and then leave the sites open for when they're not going to be there to use them. So that's what the federal government has been making us do on everything else that we do. And so people have to do a little different planning for their use of the boat docks in the lake and their vacation time when you have to move that direction, if you don't have capacity. If you have capacity, you don't have to make them make that decision. And so that's what we'll see and just do. But it also keeps us from being on the radar of the powers that be in Washington, D.C., because they are really down on having single user sites situated on federal property, which would be a trailer house that only, or a cabin that only one person uses. I don't know how the cabin owners have continued. They've got 99-year leases. That's the only reason they're still there. And they have not allowed people to rebuild cabins that burned down, and they've made people come and dismantle cabins, and they've made them take out trailer parks, and you know that with Goose Bay, they did it up there too, because that is a single user on a federal site when you have 330 million other owners that no longer can use that site. So that's a big thing for them, and I don't want to get on their radar for some of these, because what they'll do is they say, oh, you can't do it for a season. You can't release that out. You have to do it 2 weeks at a time, and then that person has to be gone, can't even come back to that campground for 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks. So, and some of them are saying they will, and this is getting a lot more support than I would like to see. If you've used any federal area for 30 days out of the year, you are barred from coming back to that area for the rest of the year. Yeah.
Is that in effect now, or?
It is on some areas. Gallatin County has it on their forest. And nobody's enforcing it right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but it's on the books. So, yeah, that raises
That
raises
could really
your
affect you down here, because there's a lot of people from Bozeman, they come every weekend down here, and they're only gonna use it on the weekend.
Yeah,
But,
they don't want to drive their stuff back and forth either. Yeah. So having a storage area that's got a fence around it, that's a really good idea. They built a fence in a storage area at Goose Bay Marina. It's not a secure fence. And so for things to be in there is such a high liability risk for us. We're building a new fence. That's going to happen in March out there, just so that it has a security fence around it. And locked gates. We're going to put biz pins on there so people have keys that will work with their cell phones to get the gate to unlock and lock. And that, I don't recall seeing that you had a locked storage area in the plans for, I didn't look at that one, but that might be one that you want to.
the majority of it was back where it gets that,
You got parking
BLM
area.
fence
Mhm.
straight west of the campground.
Yeah, you got a parking area there, but it didn't look like it had a security fence around it.
I don't think that was incorporated into it, but we talked about that
Yeah.
several times during this, putting together the master plan.
Yep,
Sure.
and we're finding that that's going to be heavily used once we get that security fence in there. So, and it's another source of income to help with the bottom line of keeping that whole area financially sound and stable, because then you'll pay for I think we're having $2 a day, $2.50 a day for the storage. That's just cheap for a lot of folks, but
Yeah, if you get to the point your people have to pull their boats out when they're not using them, they get a place to park them.
Yes, yep, they do.
So where does the rental on the boat slips fall? Is that part of the boat launch 60/40 or is that part of the campground 90/10?
Well, I guess in the past.
That's a good
it's-
question,
Yeah, in the past, it's been part of the campground 90/10.
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, that's.
So the boat launch fees, this was,
Yeah.
my understanding was just the
Mhm.
boat launch fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I'm excited. What they're
And
doing.
Mike Al had a question.
Yeah, go.
So I got a couple of comments, and they're not, they're contractual type things, but I think they're things that, from my perspective, I would like you to hear them anyway,
Okay.
whether you decide to use them or not. And these are not, hopefully not anything that gets into the stuff you guys are talking about, percentages and stuff. But can I talk from here, or you want me to?
You're fine, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In reviewing the contract, I think one of the things that you need, this is my perspective again, you need to do is you need to formally accept Esther's proposal as part of the contract, because she's got a lot of stuff in her her proposal that says what she's gonna do, that's not in your contract. And I think you need a clause that says that and this goes back then, because you gotta get it into the definition, so a definition is proposal. Proposal is her proposal that she wrote in response to the RFP, you're accepting that into the contract. And then you need probably another clause that says anything that doesn't line up with terms of the contract overrides. Okay? So when she says she's gonna have 3 hosts, you say there's only 1, that's okay because she's doing more than what you require in the contract. But it's one of those things, there's an awful lot of stuff in that proposal that's really good stuff that I think you all want to have on the table and know that you're looking at each other through the same set of shady glasses. And it keeps it above board, because otherwise, if you don't put it in there formally as a clause that says we accept this as your proposal and it's now part of the contract, then you only got your contract and you don't have all the stuff that she put in hers.
Sure. Yeah, you
So,
bet. That's,
Okay,
that's,
enough on that.
Very good.
that's good. Yep.
The other one is in, I think it's one of your, it's appendix C, I think, that has the rates,
Yes,
okay?
page
Yep.
13.
Yes, so, I don't know, are the group fees or the overnight thing, is that the gazebos?
Yeah,
I
the
don't
pavilion.
know that,
Yeah.
and it doesn't say that, gazebos are never listed as a item. So, I mean, it would just be a matter of saying gazebos, group use areas, whatever, because otherwise you're missing it.
Because on the master plan, there are some areas for group camping where there's not a gazebo. So,
So I didn't know, I just.
I don't know.
Yeah,
keep the cobwebs out of it.
the term that's used most often is group use areas.
Yeah.
Group use areas. And then it doesn't have to have a pavilion with it or anything else. And then they'll probably have a little different pricing if you have a pavilion with electricity
Yes.
than you
Right.
would with one that's not so.
And that's what I was getting
developed.
after, was that
Yeah.
if you go out and say, okay, here's a group use area where you put 50 people in, that's gonna be priced different probably than a place that holds 10 people, but they get a pavilion or a gazebo with it. So, and I don't know what those rates would be, that's not what I was after.
So how do you think, what's good wording for that, Esther, that would work for you?
It would have to be written out with a little bit of detail to it and say that if an area, now, do you have areas right now that are being used by groups that don't have things like picnic tables or fire rings or anything else with them? Or do they have I would call them, in the Forest Service, they have a schedule. And it says if they have 8 or 7 of these basic amenities, then they get charged a fee, and the fee is just the same. And it doesn't matter which 7, it's like a tent, list of 10 to 12 things, but they gotta have water, they gotta have tables, they gotta have garbage collection, they gotta have parking, they gotta have some of these things. Pavilion can be one of those things, but it can be off of there too and still be able to have the same pricing for it. Because nowadays, people can bring their own RVs, and then they have the shelter and they have the stuff like that. So if we have the tables and the group fire pit, fire rings and things like that, then it works. You could also write into there that if it has less than these, a lesser fee will apply. And just leave it general. And then we just have to make sure it's a lesser fee. So that doesn't micromanage, but it does allow some even rougher areas to be used for overflow at times.
But there are some, there are some family groups that like to come, and maybe there's gonna be 5 camp trailers. They want to be in one area,
Mhm.
so they're all right next to one another and so on. And they can give a darn about,
Group fire grill, upright
well,
fire
there probably
grill.
should be a fire ring there,
But they're firing, but there's like group grills that they can barbecue on. They'll bring their
Yeah, they
own.
don't
They'll
care about
haul
that.
those
They
gas.
bring their own grills,
Yeah,
yeah.
they do.
But,
So,
but they don't care about the structure with the cover and so on and so
shelter.
forth.
So I think these rates apply to the 4 gazebos and the number of people that use those 4 gazebos. I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't say gazebos, and that's why
right.
I brought it up. That's-
Okay.
So that just needs some
You got,
clarification.
you got a
on
lot
it.
of room in your contract to amend and add and stuff, so
Mhm.
as time goes on, if you guys see something, you can negotiate it, you
Yeah.
sign the amendment and get it done. But I just brought that up for that.
Okay.
The other thing is that there is nothing in here about the dock rental rates, daily
No.
rates, weekly rates,
Right.
monthly rates, or seasonal rates. And so I think we need that in here. There's also no place in here that references the launch fees. Daily $5, $50 for a season. There's a seasonal pass I saw, maybe it was in there, but I didn't. This is a page that talks about fees, and I didn't see it on this page.
I seen the $50 seasonal minimum.
Yeah, in, with the Forest Service, those fees are always negotiable. So if you put them in a contract, then they're not. And so you don't have a chance to amend them, at least it's a lot harder to amend them at that point. So,
Mm-hmm.
technically, what they have for language to cover that is if you have, it's like prevailing wages, but it's prevailing rates that are equivalent to the same type of amenities that is out there in the general area. So that you're not like, I won't go charge $80 a night for some of those things, because the area is not supporting $80 a night. So if you put that kind of language in, then it gives you some leeway, put a couple dollars here and maybe $5 there, to not have to renegotiate everything. So,
And there's probably some incidental stuff, I mean, whatever you charge for firewood or propane bottles or those kind of things.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the agreement you have with the BOR requires them to approve those rates. Now, I don't know if it applies to dock rates, because the docks are yours,
Yeah, we own the docks.
yeah, so I don't know if
Did you get that
applies.
schedule from last year, Esther, what they were charging?
I think it was 4 for a slip.
Yeah.
I think it was $400.
Well, they
Per
sat
year.
here in the meeting, said
Per
it was
year.
575.
No,
and
it
they
was
were
more than that.
5.6.
It was
Yes,
more than
okay.
that. It was 5 something.
Yeah,
Was it 5 something?
575 is what.
Yeah,
they said
right.
in the meeting.
That's right.
And they were gonna up it to
Yeah,
6.
yes, that's what exactly what it
Anyway.
A
was.
year or two behind, I guess.
So that's, those were things that I thought were missing. The other thing I believe we need to make some references is that you talk about the contract could be reviewed, annually. I
Mhm.
think it's important that you have something that talks about what a review is, or a form or a format, signature page, something. And that would go both for reviews or changes. It's just to keep everybody up on the level, so that, 2 years from now, somebody doesn't say, well, wait a minute, you told me a year ago that that was okay, and you don't have a change in the contract.
Verbal changes don't work for anybody.
No.
No, I long ago gave up with that. I will do email confirmations of anything I've talked about on a phone call, I will send it back an email saying, here's what we talked about on this one, is this what you understood, that's just what I understood, please say yes or no, and so I get a response, yeah.
Well,
If you haven't got it in writing, it's not done.
Keeps the bug out of the water.
Yep,
So the only other thing I had is just a question, and you guys haven't talked with it at all, and that was the $3,000 per incident for maintenance for Esther to do, and you guys carry stuff over there. I didn't know where that came from or what the rationale was, whether it was the insurance policy. I thought maybe it had something to do with the insurance. Not that it makes, I'm just.
that's real
curious on that.
similar to all my Forest
Is it?
Service
Okay.
contracts, I think I gotta take the first $1,000 on, and this is on pumps, hand pumps mainly out there, I don't have a lot of pressurized systems, but it's on that too.
Anyway, that
Let me
was
look
just-
at that. But we've, in the past, if we wait for the Forest Service to buy the $5,000 pump that we have to put down a well, it doesn't get done, it won't get done for, we just pay the $5,000, put the water, put it back in. We've done that forever, just because it's so much simpler to get her done,
So that's our comments,
yeah.
my comments.
And we'll run it by you guys, but we'll make sure the repair's already done.
So if you have 3 camp hosts, they can keep a little better track of what goes on in the various areas too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just one person doing all of that, we're paying him more money and gonna have him work less than what he did last year. I don't know how they said, we love it there, we're coming back. I'm going, why aren't you burnt out? I don't know why that didn't happen, so.
Still needs to be there though, you know.
Yeah, and it's nice to have someone who knows the system there to kind of help walk us through too, so, but we'll get him some helpers, so, do that. I've got another couple on there that are kind of young. Have to go through and interview them quite carefully to see if we want them out there handling money. Yes.
Important.
Yep.
So are we at a point that we can
Yeah.
go back and revise this?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna take
I don't think it's gonna
much
take
to
that
do
long.
this.
Yeah, I
Get it
think
back to
we're,
you
I think we're,
Okay.
what I'm hearing is pretty agreeable to me.
That was my
We'll-
checklist.
We'll keep working on that.
You
That's
guys-
all I had really for,
Yeah.
for where we needed to be, and hopefully we can get this done sooner than later,
Yeah.
because you have a job to do, to get ready for.
Yep. First thing is gonna be getting maps, because we have to get maps to
Yep.
whatever reservation system we have. And that includes GPS locations of the start of every site that's out there, plus
Oh,
looking at the docks and getting those things with the numbers correct on the map. So when we put them into the reservation system, when they use that number and it's in their mind the same one that they've had for.
Yeah. I think it's a great move that you got those folks that were out there before to help you.
Yeah,
They know exactly what needs to be done, so
Yep.
that's gonna be good.
yeah, so we'll be kind of picking their brain even
Mhm.
through this spring
Perfect.
session. Interesting enough, I've been trying to hire those guys for the last 2 years.
Well,
They're
congratulations, I
over at
think
the
you maybe
silos.
just
What are you
did.
doing over there? So, yeah, so I knew we had all their information when they called and said they were interested. I'm going, oh, yeah, we'll hire you in a second because we have it all approved and background checks and everything done, so that was nice. Well, thank you. Anything else that's on anybody's mind on? Like I said, we're pretty direct. When things aren't working, we'll come and talk to you, and we try to do it with the right tone of voice and not a lot of blaming. And
Yep.
we've been through launching new campgrounds for many, many times. We know that there's always an adjustment period. We had some of the people we ran out of Goose Bay that are over here in silos, so
Yeah.
we've already talked with them and we're good. So it's just they, sometimes we have campers we call blade of grassers.
You said that. I wrote
Oh,
that down.
gosh,
Yeah.
where they
This
want to know the
Yes.
detail right down to the color of the rocks that they're gonna be parking on
Mhm.
before they get in there. And sometimes they're so picky that we finally tell them, I don't think we can meet your expectations.
Sure.
When they just get so demanding like that and it's beyond what anybody can serve. And that wakes them up. It wakes them up because we're telling them, we really think you need to go somewhere else because we can't meet these expectations. And that's being honest.
Yeah, so, you know, I think that we've, for the past couple of years, we've developed a really good rapport with our VOR partners,
Okay.
you know, the Dans
Yeah,
and now Chuck, who's just come on board with them, and
yeah, I haven't met him yet.
and they
so-
really seem to be receptive and helping and doing things out there, so you'll be working with them. You know what their part of this whole thing is. So.
Right, and I wrote this proposal up to meet the Bureau of Reclamation proposals. So if it goes back that way, I've still got everything down like they like it, to have it done. The only thing I didn't do is tell them I was gonna look at the gutters. I'm
Save
not
at least
looking at
2 or
the
3
gutters.
weeks by doing that, so they.
Yeah, well, it took some time to modify.
Yeah.
I didn't get that proposal in here with a lot of time to spare. I was sweating
Yeah.
that one, trying
Yeah.
to get her all done, but
All right, perfect. So do you know how things are going for your other contracts? Not yet?
we're almost fully staffed. I have the Goose Bay one. I'm surprised because we have full hookups out there. We're still needing a couples for that one,
Good.
and I was a little bit. The guys that we wanted to have come back were late in telling us no, they weren't coming back, and that put us behind the curve on trying to get people that are looking for summer jobs. So I found a couple of new sites, and we're reaching out to folks, and we'll see. And then worst comes to worst, I have a couple people I might move up there from my other operations
Sure.
and just do that, so they would do well that way.
So your Forest Service bids are still hanging for this year?
Yeah,
Really?
they're probably gonna come, the proposals will come out, I'm thinking, this week. And so then I've got, and instead of having me to write 2 proposals, they split one up into 3. So I'm gonna have to write 4 proposals for those things. And I'm gonna try and get that done before April 1st, because after April 1st, I'm just
They're
gonna
put
be
people in
toast.
fine.
So, and part of it is I'll try and hire some extra workers. I'm trying to hire somebody extra in the office right now, get her trained, or he trained, whichever opens up for me. I actually called some people, just cold call, and saying, hey, we could use whatever time you can give us in the office and get them in there. So that frees up more of my time to do that kind of stuff. I'm even looking at my husband, because he's gonna try and retire this year. And I'm saying, if you're gonna be home, I'm gonna have you do
Yeah.
some stuff in the office.
Yeah.
So-
Let him off the hook
He
too
likes
easy.
paperwork like a hole in the head. He'd rather go out and do all the construction stuff still, but,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're looking at a couple of your neighborhood volunteers here.
Yeah, we have a great
I guess we're gonna have to sign
Volunteers.
volunteer agreements with the county
Yeah, I don't know.
in order to do that.
Yeah,
Now, it's their choice whether they sign us up or not, I understand.
yeah, it is. We're, as a concessionaire, I can't use volunteers. I have to pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
whatever you
but
get
if
up there.
the county signs it up as volunteers under their,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, they can do that. Well, yeah, that's all gonna be in the future of how that all works out. And we'll see. We'll get at least two
I
parties out
I
there.
take care of the airport out there, so,
Okay.
and I live about halfway down the airport, right next to it.
So when it's really cold and we're worried about the water, we're gonna call you. Can you come down there and turn on the faucet? That stuff doesn't freeze before you get it all. Yeah, that's always nice to have some locals around.
Yep.
So,
So we'll work on the revisions on our end.
Yep.
Okay,
We'll get them sent to you,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah, and I expect that we'll have to hammer it out a couple times. We'll get some
Oh,
comments
no, it's a
coming
one
through.
time.
Yeah.
One
right.
time, you guys got it? Okay,
And just so you know, we're at a conference Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
okay.
So,
Yeah, well, my expectations for the speed of government is just about down to 0.
well, we'll prove you wrong. How's that?
Yeah, it's nicer working with the local level than the federal level. That's just a nightmare. I can work with the districts. I've got great district staff in the Forest Service. Going up to, and the forest, I can work with the forest level. Regional level, I'm a non-entity, basically. Federal level, what concession program? So, but we have our trade association meeting is this week, starting tomorrow, and it's all done virtually. So we're gonna have our conference here. So I'm gonna be tied up with that in the mornings for the next week.
Okay.
That one too.
We'll get to this as soon as we can.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time.
Thank
Yeah,
you
you're
for
very
coming.
welcome, and I'm glad you're
Your
just
openness.
willing to consider what we have to say from a business end, because that just helps. And I've been around enough that if people aren't, I other things I can do. So,
Right.
put my time. But this will be nice. We're wanting to stay a little closer to home and give up some of our out-of-state contracts, because I don't want to travel anymore. But if I don't give those up, we're going to be hiring more people, so that's the key there. They got to be hungrier. There's too much good unemployment money coming out right now. I can't get anybody to get hungry. And college kids, good night. Get a loan and they go play.
Ridiculous how they did
Yeah.
that start with.
Oh, yeah, it's.
Have we done that, Mike?
Yep, we're done. We're
Thank you.
adjourned.
We're adjourned.
3:57, maybe 52.